Marion and Betska, I'm asking a very important question about language. If someone coming from different country, so how can we make feel people welcome to our companies? I want your view first, Marion.
Thank you, Raj, for bringing up that topic, because I think sometimes we're forgetting that we all have a part in making people feel welcome, and we can have such an impact on them and how they do in their jobs, how they're showing up at their jobs, and even how they're showing up at home, and personally, as far as their confidence and their self-worth and what kind of impact that has. So I love that topic that you brought up. And actually, from my perspective, because when I first came to the US, my first language, my mother tongue is German. And so when I thought that my English was pretty good, I thought, and when I came to the US and I was starting to make phone calls, I was doing a lot of analysis and research on the clients and what they liked about our products and services, I realized very quickly that my English wasn't necessarily at the level that I thought it was or I needed it to have, because on top of that, I learned British English, which is a little bit different than the US English. And I got lost in the slang of the American English very, very quickly. And I remember this experience so fondly because within the first seconds, my American clients, they realized right away that I wasn't from there. And the conversation switched over from the reason of my call to, oh, where are you coming from? What are you doing? Oh, it's a German company. Oh, that's so interesting. And I felt so welcome. And it gave me the confidence I needed in order to really make those conversations. And even within those 6 months that I was there, I was working on so many different projects, and I was just so excited about being part of this team and being part of making a contribution and having an impact and making things better, and being so encouraged in what I was doing and bringing myself in for who I was, that it is still such a fond memory that could have gone entirely different if you're imagining, for example, you are coming in and people are making comments about you in terms of, oh, you don't know English, or, you know, you mispronounced this, or you made a mistake over here, and what kind of impact that can have on how we look at ourselves, the confidence that we bring, even how much of who we are and the quality of what we do might just be hiding away. I know certainly that was the case for me in my early stages, that I was fairly shy. I was more reserved. I would hold back with information because I wasn't sure whether or not it was right, or maybe there were other people that were smarter, or they were more experienced. So it can go either way. And the point I am bringing up here is that we all have that power to make somebody else feel welcomed. And it really doesn't cost us anything. That's the beautiful thing, but we can make such a difference. And then on the opposite side of this, I want to share with you an example where I have been in a company now, fast forward like years later, and I was much further along in my career, much higher up in the career, the hierarchy ladder, I suppose. But I remember I was giving a presentation in front of a couple of hundred people, and somebody else on the executive team corrected me afterwards because I mispronounced a word. And the way she brought it up to me was in a way condescending, and please make sure that next time you are not mispronouncing this word anymore. And again, remember, it's not my first language. So I felt very self-aware. I felt that anything I did right in this presentation was going to the side, and the focus went straight and solely on the word that I mispronounced and how she felt that was not at the level it needed to be for the role that I had and how that made me feel at that time. So again, it can go either way, but we do all have that power to encourage, bring the best out of people. And personally, I think that is part of our responsibility in life, and certainly as leaders or within an organization, to make sure that really everybody can reach their potential and has the support that they need to be successful.
So, you know, what I'm hearing Marion say is that we really do need to treat people, whether they speak a different language or whether they're from Syria, Afghanistan, Mongolia, Africa, wherever, right, wherever they're from, that we treat these wonderful beings with respect and dignity, because we are all God's children, right? We should all treat each other equally. And here are some little tips that I've learned along the way, because I work with people in so many different countries. When you first meet them on Zoom or wherever, face to face, I think it's really important to make them feel welcome by asking them, well, you know, tell me about your culture. You know, like, what do you do for Diwali, or what do you do for, you know, different guru celebrations or whatever, right? And ask them about what sporting events they like, or ask them about their family. How many children do they have, or what does their husband or wife do, and ask them about their interests. And in some countries, that's considered to be invasive. You know, you don't do that. But I know here in Canada, it's a loving thing to do, because you're just showing a genuine interest, basically. That's what I'm saying. And I mean, we could, if they're brand new to the company, we could, everybody can give them a welcome card, you know, like a paper card or an e-card or something like that. Or the boss could send an email out to welcome these new people. People love that. And, you know, so these are all things that we can do. But one of the points I want to make here is that, yes, we actually cannot really make people feel welcome. We can do all these things, but it depends on whether the person is going to internalize it or not. But whether they're going to accept all of that love. So we have to encourage these international folks who are joining our companies to, you know, have real positive beliefs about themselves, right? To love themselves, respect themselves, have faith in themselves, and they're going to exude that kind of an aura. And when you do, then other people are going to treat you with love and respect and dignity. Do you hear what I'm saying? This is really important.
Yes.
It brings up a good point, which are the intercultural differences, because, like, for example, the German culture, it would be invasive when you don't know somebody and you're starting to ask them about family or other things. More often than not, that is not a very common thing, nor do people really want to share that with you if they don't know you. And I know there are very many other cultures that have their own set of I guess traditions of how we're doing things. So I think we have to be very aware that every country deals with those things differently. And if we have, say, within a company, a certain nationality or a certain culture more than not, then it's certainly worth our time to figure out, how do they do things? How do they do business? Like in some cultures, they don't do business at all unless they have somewhat of a trust and a respect, and they understand each other's families, that before they even step into a conversation of business. Germany or Germans don't really fall into this category. And that's another funny story, because originally when people would walk up to me and they would say, "Hi, Marion, how are you?" And I'm like, "How am I? Why are you asking me this? You don't even know me." And I was really, I was kind of surprised, I guess, but I would be like, "Okay, why are you asking me this?" And then they would look weird at me, because it's like, what's wrong with you? Can't you just say good and how are you kind of thing? And then it got even weirder. If you thought that was weird, then I started responding. And if I wasn't doing so well, I would tell them that too. And I didn't realize that they really didn't want to hear that. It was just a customary type of thing.
Question,
And
yes.
so, but I think that a lot of that has to do with the culture that we are coming from, but from a language perspective. And I want to point that out too. It's not always when we come from another culture, another language altogether, because in my experience, I moved around obviously quite a bit where there were different languages spoken, but I also moved within Germany where we have different dialects. And I felt particularly one experience when I moved into an area that had a very thick own dialect. I felt very unwelcomed because of my dialect, that people realized I wasn't from that local area. And they didn't mean badly, but they pointed out and they were kind of making fun and making jokes around it. And I felt that very intrusive. And I felt very disappointed about being treated that way, especially within a country that is my country too. I wasn't even from abroad or speaking a different language. So what I want to say here is that it doesn't have to be an international setting to feel welcome or not welcome. And I agree with you, Betska. A lot of times it's our own perception and perhaps even projection of how we feel that we are putting out there, that we are the meaning we give the experience sometimes determines how we feel, or if we're moving into that state of feeling discriminated, feeling discouraged, feeling a lack of acceptance. So it's really two-sided of what can we do for others to help them in their process, and what does that person need to do themselves to even be able to accept that, if that makes sense.
Yes, a great summary. And yeah, I can appreciate the, some of my suggestions could be considered invasive. And in some countries, it's considered welcoming. So I think what I'm hearing you say is that we need to know the person, the culture they come from, and at the very least, we can use our body language to welcome people, right? We don't have to ask them a ton of questions, but smile at them every day, or maybe buy them a tea or a coffee, or do nice things for these people to make them really feel welcome.
Yeah.
Thank
Genuine kindness and friendliness, I think, is always the recipe. And it's the art almost of influencing people. And, there's a very famous book out that talks about how to influence people and win friends. And I think a lot of that has to do with understanding, who do you deal with? Is that somebody that maybe is more private? Is it somebody that blurts out all of their life and all of their relationships and everything that is going on in their life? But ultimately, it's about understanding, who do you have across from you, treating people with respect and equality, regardless where they're coming from, regardless what language they speak, and letting that kindness and that acceptance and that respect speak for itself.
Yes, really project that we respect everyone, who, no matter what color, what language, what culture, we respect and love everyone, and show it and really demonstrate that. Thank you, Raj, for asking that question.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Maybach music.